What is going on, guys? Today I have a very exciting video for you. We're going to be talking about Amazon stock, and Amazon stock is actually not something I own. Oftentimes on this channel, I talk about stocks that I own, that I'm very positive and bullish on, and Amazon is one that I personally do not own, but it's getting more and more interesting as the days go by. So I want to go over basically its valuation and take a look at Amazon, why I haven't bought in yet, where the stock would probably need to go for me to buy in the future, and basically overall just take a look at its valuation. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like down below, and if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. Amazon has been getting absolutely destroyed. We can see here today that the stock is down over 4% in a single trading day, which is absolutely insane. And it's traded down throughout the day. It wasn't just a huge gap down at the start of the day. It's been consistently selling off throughout the day, which is absolutely insane, especially when you think about Amazon and where it's been over the last couple of years. It was almost all the way up to $2 trillion at one point. And now it is well below $1 trillion, right now sitting at $878 billion. So absolutely fallen quite a bit from its highs. We can see over the last 5 days is actually down almost 7%. Last month down 24%. Last 6 months only down 21%. And then the last year it is down 50%. So absolutely insane moves that Amazon is making right now to the downside over and over again. And what's really crazy is if we go out 5 years, we can see that we can go all the way back to 2018 and actually see that Amazon was trading around this level at that time. Obviously, it dipped down back in 2018 when the China trade war kind of went on. And then since then, it's basically just been up in a straight line. And then obviously 2020 with the pandemic and everything, Amazon exploded up and then traded sideways. It's a stock that really, has a huge run up and then just trades sideways, kind of like we're seeing here, and then a huge run up and then trades sideways. And now we're actually starting to get a really large pullback in Amazon, which is very interesting because we've seen a number of these over the years. Amazon, I believe, has dropped like 4 or 5 times by like 90%, which is absolutely insane. But this one feels a little bit different. It feels like there could be a couple other things going on with the stock behind the scenes, especially in terms of its valuation. Before we jump into valuation, I did want to take a look at their recent earnings. So their recent earnings were, it was expected 20 cents and they reported 28 cents. So this was a surprise, a very good positive thing. 36.99% surprise there. However, revenue was a slight miss, basically in line. No real concerns there. What's very interesting is when you actually go out and look at their Q2 and their Q1, you see that they reported losses. And all of these losses, from everything that I've read online, it basically comes from an investment in Rivian where, basically it just went bad. It did not work out well. Rivian's been losing a lot of money, been in a lot of trouble. So that's been kind of hurting their balance sheet, making a lot of their earnings look very negative. So I'd expect over the next couple quarters that to really start to turn around and that to be one positive going forward. But it's important to note that that's kind of weighed on them throughout this year, and it could weigh on them continuing into next year. Let's go ahead and talk valuation. What we can see here is that Yahoo Finance has Amazon at a forward P ratio currently of 42.19. And what they've been over the past is we can see all the way up to 64, and then 42 is basically their lowest over the past year and a half that we can see here. So it's very interesting that Amazon is one of the stocks that trades very, very highly in terms of its valuation, especially when you think of a company that's very well established in its industry. You would kind of expect that Amazon wouldn't have a ton of growth, but because of how they've set up their business, they've kind of positioned themselves into a lot of different industries where they can get growth from different areas and kind of continue to grow over time. And that's why they've commanded such a high valuation over a number of years. But really the question is going to come about is if that flips, how will Amazon actually be valued, right? Because right now it's sitting at a 42. And a 42, if you read any sort of literature, if you read a book called The Intelligent Investor, basically Benjamin Graham in that book talks about that a 60 PE ratio is unsustainable for a business for the long term, just because you cannot outgrow that PE ratio, that basically potential earnings that the stock market is pricing in. And obviously Amazon has fallen down below that now, so they're sitting at a 42, but even a 42 is a high valuation. Generally, you see the market bouncing anywhere between a 15 PE ratio and a 25 PE ratio. So again, the question comes about, what happens if Amazon stops growing or basically stays stagnant or even experiences negative growth? This is where things get very, very scary. So what we are doing here is we have the price of Amazon, which is $86.14, and the current PE ratio, which we got from Yahoo, of 42, and potential PE ratios from the market of anywhere from 20 to 25. So we're kind of picking the top of that range. Instead of the 15 to 20, we're just going to do 20 to 25. And the numbers are still very scary. So if we unveil these, we can see that the stock, if it were valued by the market at a 20 PE ratio, the stock would fall all the way down to $41.02, which would be a 52% drop in the stock price from its current levels. If this market decided no, Amazon is valued at a 25 PE ratio, then the stock would only fall to $51.27, which would only be a 40% drop from its current levels. So these would be absolutely insane moves. But what we aren't pricing in here is, what if earnings falls on top of that? What if we see poor earnings over the next couple quarters, next year? How could that potentially affect these numbers as well? What we can look at is, here we have on Yahoo Finance, Amazon's basically what analysts are thinking for EPS for next year. And what we are looking at is $1.68. So what we can do is plug this in and basically use that to figure out what a potential PE ratio at $1.68. If they earn that next year, their forward P ratio would now be $51 or $51.27. And again, that's just basically taking the current price divided by its earnings, and that gets us that $51.27 for a forward P ratio. So what we are going to do is we are going to plug that in here into the same ratio. Instead of the 42 that we had in here before, we can plug in $51.27, and we can see what our potential new price targets are. And it gets very scary very quickly. So what we are saying is, if earnings start to fall and we see the market try to price Amazon stock at a 20 to 25 PE ratio, we could see the stock fall all the way to $33.60 if the market decides that Amazon is only a 20 PE ratio, worth a 20 PE ratio. And that would be a 60.99% drop in the stock price from its current levels of 86.14. So this isn't even the drop from the all-time high. This would be an absolutely crazy downward move from its all-time high. And then at a 25 PE ratio, we would see the stock fall down to $42, and that would be a 51.24% return. So we have some very scary numbers here. This would obviously be an absolutely massive drop to the downside. So with all of that said, this has been a very negative video. I personally think there's still a lot of growth for Amazon. I think they have a lot of potential moving forward. I think obviously they've been hurt in the short term by some of their investments. I would love to see Jeff Bezos come back. I honestly think he was great at running the company. I don't have anything against Andy, but I just think Jeff, has a certain allure to him. He understands the business like the back of his hand, been with it since day one, started up, everything like that. So it would be awesome to see him come back into the business and basically take over, similar to how we've seen in the past with like Steve Jobs coming back to Apple and things like that. But overall, I kind of don't see that happening. I think he's kind of moved on with his life. I think Amazon still, can grow. The question is, are investors going to kind of take a step back and say, hey, Amazon's not growing the same that it used to when Jeff was there. Maybe we should start valuing this stock a little bit different, and we could see the stock price fall a little bit. So I would be interested and would get very interested at Amazon stock, probably below 75, definitely below 50 would be an absolutely, start buying opportunity, because then you're starting to get closer and closer to those lows and potentially, around a 20 PE ratio. Amazon would be honestly a steal right now at a 20 PE ratio, in my opinion. But, you never know. This is the problem with PE ratio, is that it really just depends what the market is going to value it at, right? Tesla has seen a similar run up where they have ran up a lot significantly from their PE ratio. And I could certainly take a look and do a similar valuation metric on Tesla. If you want to see it, drop a comment down below. But they are a stock that, a company that has a lot more growth kind of in front of them, in my opinion, potentially than Amazon. Amazon's really established itself in a lot of markets, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for it to grow. So personally, I do not own the stock right now. I am not adding a position right now for Amazon stock. I like Meta stock a lot more. I think there's a lot more upside, a lot more growth potential with that company. But overall, I'd love to hear your opinion down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Let me know, do you think Amazon is going to ever be valued at a 20 PE ratio? Do you think it's fairly valued at a 40 PE ratio? What are your thoughts on the stock? So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. And as always, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day.